So with any luck, this is going to be the most complex of all the videos that I have published thus far. It has to do with the Latvian Gambit and the wildest variation that I play of the Latvian Gambit, which absolutely involves opening the F file early and occupying the center and a whole variety of things that, pressuring D4. All these come into play here, and they are so complex that I have never played a virtually mistake-free game in this variation, and to a large extent this video is to get my head straight about what it is that I just can't seem to get right. Now, I didn't blunder in this game. However, if you would consider the fact that I was down 4 with the proper play by white at one point, without blundering, you would have to say the whole openings were scrapping. So I'm going to analyze this with two different machines at the same time. And so, as you see, this person is playing a sharp line. I play F5, and this is playable. And he plays knight to F3. So we're going to start the first engine. We're going to take a look at, we're going to run two engines on this, and it's saying white is already up 1 in this engine. That black should play knight to C6, which I do not do. I play pawn takes pawn in this variation, so we're going to see very quickly. Maybe I'll just ignore the second engine here. That's interesting. It says that knight takes E5. This engine changes its mind fast. Queen to G5. And now, what D4 is the right move in general. Queen takes G. So this engine says we're only down half a pawn. We're not lost or anything. Okay, so it's suggesting checking a couple different ways and times. And I believe that rook to F1 is a standard move, and now knight to F6 is practically required. And that's to stop queen to H5 check, because even though you can interpose with G6, bishop to F7 check follows as well. So in this particular variation, you have to play knight to F6. And for some reason, in this time, I did not play knight to F6. So I played D5, which gives them an enormous advantage. Now I play knight to F6. And now he does check properly. King to D8, all their best moves. And bishop to G4 is what's called for here in order to try to maintain some semblance of equality. And I think the idea is if he retreats back to E2, then we retreat our bishop back to E6 and cover the F2 square, or F7 square rather. Instead, I make this weak move, bishop to E7. Now, this move turns out to be a fabulous move later in the game for the reason I moved it there. But I'm going to end up playing a rook down. As you see, I should be completely busted here. Now I'm just completely ignoring bishop to G4 again. As you see, I'm lost. Now it says I should be moving my king over. Now I'm a little late to the game here. He needs to move queen to D2. Now, if you count up the pieces, white has 4 pieces and 2 rooks. I have 4 pieces and 1 rook. I'm playing an entire rook down, and the score reflects it. So he moves his bishop back. That's the first mistake. That pares my losses down slightly. Now it says that I shouldn't take this. I should just move my king again, but instead I go for a pin. And he develops, which the machine says he should do. I mean, this machine's in love with me moving my king. Now the machine says I should move knight to E5. So we're going to start a second engine and see if knight to E5 is the right. This computer doesn't think knight to E5 is worth anything. He still thinks king to F8 is the only move. So now we're going to look at both engines. Okay, so I did move knight to E5. So this person did take the knight, sacrificing his queen and maintaining a good advantage. And this engine is saying that it gives it a huge advantage in comparison to this engine. Okay. So let's see what happens. Check. Recovers. Now it says knight to D7 is the right move, which I did not do. Knight takes D2. I moved my knight to h5. I was a little conflicted about this move. Knight to h5 was probably the better move. The knight to g4 with proper play, I can be really hurt by simply rook to g1 because my queen gets overloaded after the knight moves that happen. So this was a bit of an unsound play by me, and I did it purposely. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Rook to g1 is correct. Knight to f4 was played. Now we're beginning to get an advantage, although I should have taken the pawn and allowed my knight to be headed to f3 after capturing. However, I moved my queen there, giving him the advantage right back. But now he's got to march his king out of there, which he doesn't do. And look, lo and behold, after one move, a reversal of fortunes. Take a look at this again. If he had simply moved king to d2, he'd be up 2. Let's see what the other machine says. King to d2, he'd be up 2. Okay. Let's see what happens. Now he's down practically 3. Okay. Now this is easy to understand after that move. So this game ends quickly now. Now that bishop, which was on e7, has its purpose in life. I'm making all perfect moves at this point. He can still try to march out of there. Now we have a mate. This game ended very shortly thereafter. I'll show you what happened. He'll do anything to try to escape mate. I still end up with 2 queens here. So we'll stop this here, and let's try to go back to a point in time when it was kind of interesting. Okay, so queen to h5 check, g6, bishop to f7 check is what this computer says should happen, which is a standard line. See what this computer says, the same thing. So what if he moves knight to f7? We know what happens after he checks. Or moves rook to f1, I should move knight to f6. So let's see what happens in both cases. He's going to move rook to f1. I'm going to move knight to f6. The suggested move is bishop checks. King stays on e7 to harass the knight. The knight moves out. d6. Bishop moves back. We still can't take because the knight gets chased away and there's a check, so we cover the d5 square, and good things start to happen for black. Okay, so now let's look again, back at the beginning of this variation. Let's see what happens after knight to f6 and knight moves down. Now we can play d5, knight to h8, knight takes h8, and now the key here is what do we do? He has no escape for the knight. So these are all interesting variations, and it gets very complex. In this game it said, even though I was completely busted, I did not make a blunder. It just said I was down 4 at some point. So very, very complex, big swings happen in this variation. So something to be aware of.